You know, for generations, we gardeners have sworn by this deeply ingrained, back-breaking habit, the annual tilling of the garden. We grab a spade, we forcefully turn the earth, all to prep it for planting. But what if I told you the very thing we're doing to help our gardens is actually destroying them from the ground up? Welcome to This Explainer. Let's jump right in.
It's a really serious question we've got to ask ourselves. Does your exhausting, sweat-inducing annual digging actually multiply your weed problem? Is it destroying your soil's long-term health? By constantly overturning those soil layers, are we literally setting our plants up for failure? Today we're looking at the absolute latest agronomic data and bio-intensive farming principles to uncover what is truly happening right beneath the surface of our garden beds.
So, modern soil science asks us to completely shift our perspective. We really need to stop looking at soil as just dirt or some lifeless mix of sand and clay. Instead, we have to treat it as a living, breathing superorganism. To put this into perspective, and this blew my mind, a single handful of healthy garden soil contains more microscopic living organisms than there are human beings on Earth. It's wild.
Okay, so here is how we're going to break down the science of soil management today. First, we'll look at the absolute importance of timing. Second, we'll go over some seasonal guidelines. Third, we'll dive into tools and techniques. Fourth, we'll cover the most common mistakes you need to avoid. And finally, we'll look at the incredible long-term benefits.
All right, Section 1, the importance of timing. Knowing exactly when to intervene. And look, timing isn't just about checking the calendar or your weather app. It's about deeply understanding the physical and biological state of the earth right beneath your feet. To really get why timing matters, you have to understand the soil food web. Think of this as an incredibly complex underground internet. You've got mycorrhizal fungi spreading these tiny, delicate threads through the soil, literally trading water and nutrients with plant roots in exchange for sugars. Digging at the wrong time. Well, that acts like a bulldozer to this underground internet. It shreds those delicate fungal channels, it kills off the beneficial bacteria tailored to specific soil depths, and worse, it brings dormant weed seeds straight up to the sunlight where they just immediately sprout. Nobody wants that. So, the crucial point here is knowing exactly when it's safe to intervene. And you can figure this out using a brilliant, beautifully simple field test called the squeeze test. Before you even think about picking up a tool, dig down about 10 centimeters and grab a handful of soil. Now squeeze it as hard as you can in your palm. If it holds the shape of your hand, but crumbles into small crumbs with just a gentle poke, perfect. Your moisture is optimal. But if it immediately falls apart like dry sand, it's way too dry and you definitely need to water first. Now here is the absolute danger zone, okay? If that soil drips water during the squeeze test, especially if you've got heavy clay soil, stop immediately. Just stop. Any mechanical tilling or heavy pressure on wet clay will instantly crush its tiny air pores. When that dries out, you are literally turning your garden beds into impenetrable concrete. It will completely suffocate any plant roots trying to grow in there. Moving right along to Section 2, Seasonal Guidelines for Cultivation. Adapting to the time of year. Because treating your garden in the spring the exact same way you treat it in the autumn, that is a recipe for disaster.
In the spring, guys, patience is totally key. You have to wait for the soil temperature to rise above 6 to 8 degrees Celsius. Otherwise, your poor seeds will just rot right there in the cold, wet ground. Spring is for very shallow loosening, nothing more. But in contrast, autumn is all about restorative preparation. Before those heavy autumn rains begin, that is your golden window to incorporate rich compost. And here's a pro tip for autumn. Leave the soil clods whole. Seriously, don't exhaust yourself breaking them up. Let the winter frost do the back-breaking labor for you. The frost will naturally expand and shatter those clods, giving you this beautiful, workable texture by spring.
Let's jump to Section 3, Tools and Techniques for Digging. Because what you use really matters, just as much as when you use it. Picking the wrong tool can instantly undo years of hard work building up your soil.
So when we compare traditional tools, the standard garden fork is vastly superior to the spade. Think about it. A spade essentially acts like a guillotine. It slices straight down, cutting your beneficial earthworms right in half, severing that whole fungal web we talked about, and chopping weed roots into multiple pieces, which, surprise, usually just causes those weeds to multiply. A garden fork, on the other hand, is a tool of finesse. It gently pierces and aerates the deep layers, letting you lift and pull out pesky weed roots entirely whole. And best of all, you aren't decapitating the biological workforce that's doing all the hard labor for you.
Actually, better yet, you can abandon digging entirely with the revolutionary no-dig method. Think about a vibrant wild forest for a second. Nobody goes out there to till the forest floor, right? Yet the plants completely thrive. Why? Because leaves fall, decay, and naturally build up the soil from the top down. The no-dig method mimics exactly this. You lay down some unprinted cardboard to suffocate the weeds, top it with a nice, thick layer of rich compost, and you're feeding your plants directly on the surface. The earthworms will naturally travel up, eat that compost, and pull all the nutrients down into the soil for you. They aerate the bed without you ever having to lift a shovel. It's brilliant.
All right, on to Section 4. Common mistakes during cultivation. Avoiding the traps of traditional habits. Let's dive into the most frequent, everyday errors well-meaning gardeners make just because they're following outdated advice.
We already talked about how working wet soil ruins its structure, but pay special attention to this second point. Mixing fine sand into heavy clay to try and improve drainage is a massive mistake. Without adding a ton of organic compost, sand and clay simply bind together and literally create cement. No joke. Also, never leave your soil bare. It just bakes in the hot sun. Always cover it with a good organic mulch. And please, avoid using deep rototillers on dry soil. It just pulverizes everything into a fine dust and destroys all the capillary action. Finally, if you do use phosphorus fertilizers, they absolutely must be worked into the soil. Leaving them sitting on the surface is completely useless since they don't wash down to the roots easily.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, Long-Term Benefits for the Garden. The incredible rewards of working with nature. If you can dodge those mistakes and step away from the rototiller, the long-term rewards for your garden are absolutely staggering.
Get this, by utilizing the no-dig method and religiously protecting your soil with organic mulch, stuff like straw, compost, or wood chips, you can actually reduce your garden's water evaporation by a massive 50 to 70%. That's huge. That means a massive reduction in how much you have to water, saving you an incredible amount of time, effort, and resources, especially during those brutal summer heat waves.
Now, if you want to prove these biological benefits to yourself and build a little confidence in the process, try the earthworm test. Here's how it works. On a mild day, dig up a 30 by 30 by 30 centimeter block of your garden soil. Sift through it really carefully with your hands. If you count 10 or more earthworms in that single small block, boom, you've succeeded. It guarantees that you have built a thriving, biologically active ecosystem that is naturally fertilizing and aerating your garden 24/7.
Ultimately, the most successful gardening strategy you can possibly adopt is just a simple shift in mindset. Put down the heavy machinery. Stop looking at gardening as this relentless war against the dirt and start nourishing the underground world. When you work with nature rather than mechanically destroying it, your plants will reward you with unprecedented vitality and yields.
Now, before you run out and get started, please remember that gardening is highly localized. Soil types, microclimates, geographic factors, they all vary widely depending on where you live. A strategy for heavy clay in a wet climate is going to look a little different from managing sandy soil in an arid zone. So always observe your specific garden, test your soil, and adapt these strategies to your own unique local conditions.
So my final challenge to you is this. Are you ready to step out into your garden right now, drop the spade, and see exactly how many earthworms are waiting for you? Try setting up just one no-dig bed this season and watch how nature responds. Thanks for tuning in to this explainer, and happy gardening.